Do you want to play a deck that's going to control the pace and the flow of your Commander games? What about a Commander that's going to get you additional value from your Enter the Battlefield effects? Hey everyone, I'm Anton from Foreign Knights, bringing you Commander decks you can build on a budget, and today we're going to be talking about my actual first Commander deck I ever built, Brago King Eternal. Brago is a 2/4 Spirit with Flying that reads, whenever Brago deals combat damage to a player, exile any number of non-land permanents you control, and return those cards to the battlefield under your control. So basically, when Brago hits face, you get to blink most of your board. So our basic game plan is going to be getting out permanents that have Enter the Battlefield effects, then using Brago in order to re-trigger those over and over and over again. This will allow us to use a variety of strategies, from additional card draw options, blinking your opponent's creatures, and we can really build this deck and take it wherever we would like. But here in this profile, we're going to focus more on a control strategy, talk about more winning late game, controlling the pace of the match. So let's go ahead, get into the breakdown, and as for all of our deck profiles, if you would like to look at the list that I use, it will be posted in the description down below. So let's start off by talking some of the core options that would be very unique to a Brago deck. So some of these first options, I like to call them the Swiss Army knives, because they have several different effects you can choose to utilize. So first, we have the Aether Channeler. This is a very versatile ETB creature because it allows us to choose between creating a bird, drawing a card, or bouncing a creature. So a great option, and you can use it at every phase of the game. Next, we have the Charming Prince. Very similar here. We've got a couple effects we can choose, whether it be scrying, gaining life, or bouncing one of your own creatures. This is a great trigger to have. So next up, we're going to talk about some enablers for our commander, Brago. Our entire deck very much so revolves around him, so we not only need to make sure he stays safe, we also have to make sure he actually hits face so we can get the value out of his effect. So first, we're going to play Whirler Rogue. When it enters, it'll create us 2 artifact tokens, but very importantly, the secondary effect, we're allowed to tap our artifacts, and we give a target creature unblockable, ensuring Brago will hit. We also have Aqueous Form. This will also give Brago unblockable and gives us a bonus scry. And then the last card to mention in this section is going to be Steel of the Godhead. Based on Brago's colors, this is going to give him both unblockable and lifelink. So we're running some cards to make sure that Brago does hit, but our deck does still completely revolve around him. So we need to have some backup options in order to trigger some blinks. That way, if he's down, we can still be gaining some value. So next we have Yorion, Sky Nomad. Yorion will let us flicker multiple permanents, have them return at the beginning of our end step. So not only is this great in order to play him down, say if Brago is out of commission, but also when we have Brago in commission, we can have his effect trigger last and effectively get double ETBs. Soul Herder is another great effect. This will let us blink a singular creature and have it return at our end step, but this does become a very strong beater because it will continue to get counters as your creatures are blinked. So we're keeping our deck moving in many different situations, but one thing that's also unique is that we have many ETB effects that can return creatures from the graveyard both to the battlefield and to our hand. So we've got one of the classics, Sun Titan. He will return some of your small creatures to the battlefield, and in this deck, most of our creatures are small, so a lot of things can be brought back with this effect. We also have the Karmic Guide. This will allow us to bring back any creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. And then our last card is our mass reanimation spell, the Storm of Souls. This sorcery will allow us to return all creatures to the battlefield. Your creatures do become 1/1 spirits with flying in addition to their other types. While this is normally a pretty big limiting factor to the spell, Brago can go ahead and blink everything and return them back to the way they were. Recursion is something that will make this deck very strong. Now the last card we're going to mention in this section is, you know it, you love it, Panharmonicon. Panharmonicon is a doubler of your Enter the Battlefield effects, so almost everything that we have is now going to be triggering twice. Very strong, very stable in all ETB decks. Alright, well that covers some of the unique options that we have in a Brago deck. What we'll go ahead and do now is talk about some options for ramp. And we have many options, both unique to Brago, as well as some generic ones that will fit within our colors. So some traditional ETB cards for ramp start off with Solemn Simulacrum and Core Cartographer. Both of these cards allow us to go get a basic land and put it into play. So if we have Brago out, this actually can give us a 3-land turn, allowing us to have some very strong ramp. Another key option to include is the Tribute Mage. Tribute Mage allows us to go and search for a 2-mana artifact. So this will allow us to go grab one of our mana rocks. Some other cards that are really beneficial, we have the Cloud of Fairies and Peregrine Drake. Both of these cards will let you untap land when they enter, so not only do they pay for themselves when you play them the first time, but these allow us to have very impactful main phase 2 after Brago hits. And the last card we're going to mention in this section is Recruiter of the Guard. When it enters, we get to go ahead and search for some low-cost creatures, which, as we mentioned earlier, is the vast majority of our deck. So those are some of the core options we'll include when it comes to ramping our deck, but how are we also going to be doing things like drawing? And we have many options for draw within not only our colors, but with additional ETB effects. So to start off with some basic ones, we have both the Wall of Omens and Spirited Companion. When they enter, very simple, get one additional card draw. We also have some options that continue to scale, so we have things like Cloud Blazer and Mole Drifter give us 2 cards, plus Cloud Blazer gets us some additional life, which is always nice. And then a last option to mention is we have the Ichor Wellspring, which allows us to draw both when it enters and when it leaves. Now there are many other options we have for drawing. Again, as mentioned, full deck list is down in the description, but let's go ahead and move into some of our interaction. This is truly a control deck, so we have lots of options not only to protect ourselves, but to keep our opponents at bay. We're going to start off with a couple of cards I call Wrecking Balls, meaning they do a lot of heavy lifting. Now this card makes almost everyone groan when they see it. So when Lavinia enters, you're going to detain all non-land permanents that are of mana cost 4 or less. So for those who don't know, this means no effects can be activated, no creatures can attack or block until your next turn. Not only will this very much slow down your opponent's turn, most people aren't going to be able to do anything the turn you play it, this also prevents them from continuing setting up, because this is going to lock out things like the different mana rocks too. So it's very impactful. And yep, this is an ETB effect, so as long as we continue to blink it, we can continue to detain permanents. Our next Wrecking Ball is the Stonehorn Dignitary. Similar effect of locking people out of the game, except this time, now players cannot attack. At least for our opponent's sake, we can only target one opponent, right? Well, we have many options that we've already mentioned above for triggering additional blinks, so this is usually going to be one of your primary targets if you're facing combat decks. That way you can lock every other opponent out of combat. Next up, we're going to talk about some targeted removal. We do play a couple of board wipes in this game, but some unique options we have for removal will include things like our Reality Acid. Reality Acid is an amazing removal spell due to a unique interaction with Blink. So when Reality Acid leaves the battlefield, the creature's controller must sacrifice that permanent, getting around indestructible. In normal play, we'd have to wait around that Vanishing 3 effect, but since Brago can target this, we can get rid of something on the exact same turn. What's also great about this is Brago returns it to the battlefield, and the aura has to attach to something, so you get to select something else to attach the aura to. And a weird part of the rules is technically this secondary attach is not targeting. Therefore, it actually gets around Hexproof and Shroud as well. It's a really unique interaction, will definitely catch someone off guard and able to get rid of some troubling creatures. But running through some of these other blink options, we've got Flicker Wisp, a very versatile blink and removal piece. We also have the Meteor Golem. This will allow us to destroy any non-land permanent. And lastly, we have some bouncing options, both Reflector Mage and Venser Shaper Savant. Both will bounce and make it so the opponent is disrupted and not able to play them next turn. But alright, we see we have a lot of different options in order to control the pace of the match, but what is really our win condition here? It can't just be commander damage with Brago to all of our opponents. So we've got a lot of different shenanigans when it comes to winning. Something very simple, very easy to do, is Approach of the Second Sun. For those who don't know, Approach of the Second Sun is a sorcery that when we play it, it puts 7 cards into your library, and the next time that you cast Approach of the Second Sun, you win the game. With Brago, this is very easy to play it on your main phase 1, have Brago attack, blink everything, and then your ETB effects will hopefully help you untap your mana rocks, and draw those 7 cards so you can get it and play it in main phase 2. Very easy to get in one turn, and you really have to get it in one turn because if you play this card, you are now target number 1. So make sure you can combo it all the way off, else you're probably dead. But this is not our only way to win. We also have a couple of interesting flicker interactions that lead to victories too. So you might have heard of this combo, the Restoration Angel plus Felidar Guardian. So both of these have the effect of when they enter the battlefield, they may target another creature and have it now blink. So these can thus blink back and forth together forever. So with this infinite loop, what are we able to do? Something simple to throw in is the Altar of the Brood. This artifact makes it so when something enters the battlefield under our control, we go ahead and have everyone else mill a card. So with this infinitely targeting each other, everybody mills out and they lose the game. We also run a card called the Blessed Sanctuary. Not only is this card very useful because it means we can't be pinged and our creatures can't be pinged as well, but utilizing that same interaction, we can actually go ahead and make 1,000,000 unicorns. So basically, unless they board wipe us and find a board wipe card, we then would win the game on our following turn. All right, but those are the different options we will be running within our Brago deck. But let's go ahead now, let's piece it all together. What does piloting this deck actually look like? So in the early game, we're gonna wanna start by setting up with some of our ramps and our different tutors. So playing Solemn Simulacrum, Recruiter of the Guard, Tribute Mage, Spirited Companion, and Soul Herder. And we want to cast our commander as soon as possible, as our deck completely revolves around Brago. Then moving into the mid game, we're going to want to start controlling the board and getting our different value engines out, playing things like Charming Prince, Aether Channeler, locking things down with Lavinia the 10th and Stonehorn Dignitary, and multiplying our ETBs with Panharmonicon. Then in the late game, we're going to want to close out and finish with our combos and finishers, so Felidar Guardian, Restoration Angel combos with our Altar of the Brood, Blessed Sanctuary, or utilizing Approach of the Second Sun in unison with Brago in order to play it all in one turn. Alright, that's the deck. Brago's a really fun commander, a lot of different ways that you can go ahead and customize him. This is just one way that I have played, won a lot of games with it, so feel free to take it, but customize the deck to your desires. If you liked our video or found it helpful, please give us a like and a subscribe. It helps out more than you know. And leave us a comment on what you have in your Brago decks or other decks you'd like us to cover in the future. If you wanted to kickstart your Magic the Gathering collection, head on over to 4KTCG.com and get yourself some booster boxes that can help start off building your own decks. Thank you so much for making it to the end. I am Anton with 4 Knights, and go out and play some Magic.